This is going to be a huge uphill battle for Perplexed. The first two dungeons, Spires of Ascension and Halls of Atonement, are dungeons that Perplexed just hasn't been able to put together cleanly. 11 deaths in both of the previous runs in these two dungeons, so they are going to have to be lights out, in addition to having to be more clean than Echo, and it's going to have to start with this first pull. Both teams now gearing up for this first pull here. Everything is now stacked on top of each other, and the damage is going to come out quickly from both teams.
Yeah, and and Cass actually going through here by the Goliath. Looks like maybe that was even intended, because this was not raging yet. And once there's raging, you definitely want to make sure you have all of the interrupts left available to you, because you don't want to get any of those Castigator casts off. You don't want to get any of those Goliath casts off. So maybe they knew they can let one of the casts go through, so they don't have to waste an interrupt before they're in raging range. And you also saw the perfect usage of that Silent Sigil and the Dragon's Breath to delay those casts as long as possible. As both of the teams are now done with this, but it looks like Perplex was slightly faster.
Yep, just a little bit faster, and that, again, playing a little bit better than they did with Obey Alliance here as well. But again, it's all going to come down to how they're able to execute on those big pulls, and they had lots of issues literally like an hour ago. So hopefully they just play better here. And one of the biggest disadvantages of playing in this lower bracket is there's been no practice time for Perplex. They've been on broadcast for the past 2 hours, right? So they don't have time to go back and touch up on their Spires of Ascension strat. They had to go play PI me in the other two dungeons. So while they've been sitting here playing, Echo's been able to practice and refine their strat. So again, it's just a really tough way for Perplex to progress through the bracket. And they've looked okay doing it, but Echo just, I feel like, has a massive advantage here.
I definitely agree. It looks like both of the teams proccing that Pride at the same time. Both of them also have this Goliath left to deal with. Now, depending on which team can actually pull this Pride onto the boss faster, the more time they will probably gain. So we'll keep an eye on that when they decide to move onto the boss. We know that Perplex is not actually committing the Bloodlust for this one. We'll see what Echo is doing, because we haven't seen Echo play this dungeon, this cup yet. In fact, we haven't seen Echo play any of those 3 dungeons in this series on the tournament. So they might have some surprising strategies for us here, as they are committing their Bloodlust on their side. So Echo seems like they don't need the Bloodlust for that later pull that Perplex is committing their Bloodlust for. So they're going to be saving a lot of time on this boss because of that Bloodlust commitment.
Yeah, both teams opting to go for the similar strat here of waiting for their 2-minute cooldowns and their True Shot and their Zuin and Weapons of Order from the Monk to come up. And once that happens, they pull the Prideful on top of the boss, cleave it down on 3 targets with that effective cleave, and end up burning through it. But again, Echo committing the Bloodlust here to burn the boss down faster. And it's really, I mean, it's not that big of an advantage that they're getting from the Bloodlust here, right? Only 10 to 15% HP on the boss based off of the burst damage both teams are doing. And really what it comes down to is whether or not they're going to be able to efficiently deal with that massive AoE pull a little bit later on that we know Perplexed likes to save the Bloodlust for, just to make it go smoothly. If Echo's able to pull the same pull off without Bloodlust with 0 deaths, it could give them quite a huge advantage here.
Yeah, I agree. We're going to have to see what Echo is doing here, as they're probably going to be gathering up all of these Stealth Claws. We see the Sigils being thrown out by now. Now, these Stealth Claws, if you actually don't hit them before they hit you, then you get stunned. And you don't want that to happen. That's why he was throwing these Sigils. And sometimes we even see the Hunters pull them with Turtle for the tanks. And they all gathered them up in this corner to make sure the Praetor is also on top of this. And that beautiful Binding Shot as well coming out of Fragments here on the Hunter. Now, once they are raging, there's no way now can tank them anymore. That's why you see him start kiting. Divine Field as well dropping incredibly low on the side of Perplex as well. Definitely don't want to have any of those hitting the tank anymore in the raging. That's why we also see the Ring of Peace come out of Swagfist as well. But you want to keep them stacked as much as possible still to be able to get all that cleave damage out.
Yeah, and again, like look at how much cleaner Echo is being right now with this trash. I do like, however, what Perplex is doing, using their CC, using the Ring of Frost to make sure they keep things stacked up for, you know, a little bit of extra time. Of course, it gets instantly broken by any sort of AoE cleave damage from anyone in the group, but just a little bit of stops to make sure they stay in those tar traps a little bit longer, make sure they stay in those slow fields a little bit longer, just makes the pull go that much more efficiently from the team. But everything is going to come down to this. This is one of those major in-point pulls for the teams in this dungeon, and Echo is going for the entire platform pull here without the Bloodlust. And if they're able to pull this off without the Bloodlust, it's going to be a huge time save for them. But look at how clean and efficient they are to even get the Dark Praetors down in the AoE, and with only one Goliath left, man, Echo just so clean here, even getting it done better than Perplexed without the Bloodlust.
That was actually so clean. Like, it looked so easy when they did it, but look at Perplexed. Perplexed committed their Bloodlust, and look how it looks. They have the Pride spawned, they have 2 Goliaths still up, they have a Praetor on full HP because they didn't manage to gather it up with the rest of the trash pack. So Echo just doing the same pull, but just so much cleaner, somehow managed to get those Praetors perfectly on top of the rest of the trash while gathering everything up. And this is really what makes or breaks these kind of pulls. The gathering of the pull itself, because once they're stacked, it's easy to throw your CC on them, to throw your AoE stuns, to throw your binding shots, to use your AoE cleave. But to be able to gather them up so perfectly is what usually is creating problems for these teams. And as you can see, Perplexed still having that Praetor alive, causing huge problems for them, as the Pride mob is just AoEing them down, and now they still have to finish off the Praetor, just losing precious seconds here and there because of not being able to set it up perfectly, while Echo, on the other hand, perfect execution, and now they're gathering up their next pull on the second platform.
And you have to wonder as if what's happening here to Perplexed has to be some sort of mental fatigue, right? Because they've been playing pretty much nonstop in a stressful competitive environment for the past 2.5 hours now, and that weighs on you at some point. Yeah, you're just playing a video game, but it puts you through a lot of stress. It really sends you through the ropes here, and I wonder if that's just another factor here. In addition to Spires of Ascension just not being one of their cleaner dungeons, they really aren't able to pull it together here, unfortunately. And Echo has opened up probably a solid 30 to 40 second lead, and it just keeps getting worse for Perplexed as Divine Field procs his last resort and instantly goes down, causing 3 more DPS deaths on their way. And it looks like Ryzen as well is going to be going down here, not trying to use that Shadow Mill to skip this trash. It's going to be a full team wipe for Perplexed. 25 seconds more on the board for them, in addition to having to run back, which is a large time loss in this dungeon, because you have to actually go through every single one of those angel timings. And man, it's just not looking great for them here. Looks like they also pulled an Inquisitor here. Was that the Inquisitor that they skipped before the first boss, I think? Man, really unfortunate for them here.
Yeah, definitely. Echo, on the other hand,
it's snapping to them. The trash is snapping to them.
Oh, okay, so that's really bad. In fact, it might not actually be that bad because they can finish it off, right? So it didn't heal to full HP. They're going to have to finish off the Goliath here by itself. But more and more trash is snapping to them, as you can see. Another mob just coming down there to Perplexed. Just issues over issues. Well, Echo, on the other hand, is dealing with the squad leader now. They actually played the Pride a little bit differently, I believe, what we've seen other teams do before. I'm pretty certain we've seen teams proc to 60% Pride on the previous platform and then use the invisibility potion to skip it. While Echo, on the other hand, did not proc their Pride previously. They went up to 59%. Then they dealt with the squad leader by itself, proc the Pride. Now they're cleaving down the Praetor and the champion with the Pride, and then they have the buff for the boss. So this is actually a very interesting difference in strategy here.
Yeah, the strategy that we see from other teams where they just kind of will pull trash mobs out of the way and then end up pretty much pulling every non-squad leader on top of the boss. Yeah, it's a little inefficient, but the big thing is that they lose probably like half of the... Well, they don't even have the Prideful buff, right? Because they skip it. So this is going to be really efficient for Echo. Not only will they still get all of this non-squad leader trash on top of the boss, but they have the 30% damage buff from Prideful as well to help them cleave it down. And this boss is just going to completely melt here for them.
Yeah, definitely. They have all of those buffs available to them. You also see them pull the Ether Diver and the Inquisitor on top of Ventunax as well. They do have a Soothe, of course, on Fragments here on the Hunter if they need to, but it's just melting. They don't even have to use that ability at all. Fragments can just do pure damage to this boss as he's just melting. Perplexed did manage to get back to that platform in the meantime, but they're now up to 5 deaths, so 25 seconds on the board. And, they caught up a little bit, right? So they're on 62% trash. They dealt with this Pride. But yeah, just very unfortunate for them to have this almost full team wipe and this full reset on that pool, while Echo having no issues whatsoever.
Yep, Echo just trucking on, and it's good. It's great to see from them because they were a team that in the first cup, if you remember properly, they had some big issues in this dungeon. Even in the grand finals against Perplexed in Cup 1, where they just kind of ended up throwing the dungeon over to Perplexed, and Perplexed played cleanly here. So this is a complete flip of that from our first cup of the season. Echo just completely getting as clean as possible, and Perplexed just really coming up short, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely are still pulls in this dungeon left that are incredibly dangerous, that can theoretically put Echo behind if they don't pull it off perfectly. For example, this next pull here on this platform, we see most of the teams just pull the Helion, the mini boss, plus 2 more trash packs on top of each other, use a Kyrian Spear, and just nuke it all down. But if you miss a little bit of damage and this spear is not enough, then they're all in raging range, and it could cause them to have a team wipe because of the huge amount of damage coming out of that trash. So we'll see if they can pull it off perfectly. And then, of course, the most dangerous pull in the whole dungeon is going to be that triple angel pull at the very end. So let's see how Echo is going to be doing these pulls.
Yep, that angel pull is going to be the make or break point. We saw both Obey and Alliance just chain feeding deaths to it. And I don't think that's these teams being bad at all. That just points to how difficult the nature of Fortified and Raging together is. We keep bringing it up in this dungeon, but that's because of how dangerous it is, right? It's so scary for the teams to deal with. These mobs, once they have that 100% damage buff from the Raging on top of the 30% from Fortified, that's 260% increased damage if they don't dispel or soothe that Raging buff. But look at this pull that Echo is putting together here. Yet again, the double pull, a triple pull, 10 mobs on top of each other. And I don't believe they have the Kyrian Spear, do they? No, it just now goes out. They have the Kyrian Spear available. Everything is stunned for 8 seconds, I believe, taking increased damage. In the cooldown window, everything is getting bursted down, and there might be a couple casts going off, but they have the AoE CC to deal with that.
Yeah, the Helion immediately got soothed by Fragments as well to get rid of that raging effect. Incredibly well executed again. And we saw how they set up the pull here. Again, the whole setup at the start is the most crucial part, because once everything is gathered, you throw the spear and everything is fine. But if you don't manage to gather everything, then things can fall apart very easily. That's why we saw Fragments use that camo to go through and make sure he's pulling the correct mobs on top of Nao, while Nao is using that Silence Sigil to get the rest of the trash packs on top that are the casters and that don't just walk on top of you. So really well set up and very well done by Echo as they're dealing with this 80% Pride here. We've seen some teams skip this Pride and then pull it later on to have that Pride buff for the Angel pull, but most teams changed the strategy up and just said, you know what, we don't need the Pride for the Angel pull, or at least we're gonna risk it and not have the Pride buff for the Angel pull, because this boss, Orifrion, it's actually gonna save them a lot of time if they can one-phase this. If they can face it within one draining phase, it's actually a huge time gain, and that's why most of the teams changed the strategy to do the more riskier thing and just use the Pride for this instead of the Angels.
Yeah, and I think that's what the advantage of pulling the boss solo rather than pulling the usurpers on top of it is that you don't have to worry about cleaving any of your extra damage on the usurpers. You just get to focus it all on the boss to get it lower for that damage amp phase, right? When we watched Obey Alliance and Perplexed play off in this dungeon earlier, Perplexed was able to just kill the boss in the damage amp, which was a huge time save, whereas Obey Alliance still had 10% or so left on the boss. And yeah, they did get the cleave from the usurpers, but then they had to single target the boss for another 10%, so it wasn't as efficient for them. I really like the strategy of just making sure you get the boss as low as possible here before this first damage amp, because it actually also allows you to get into that damage amp phase while it's an execute too. So you activate the kill shot from the hunter, and you also get it below 30% for the mage to start hitting that scourge execute phase as well. Just lots of extra damage coming out when you hit that execute here.
Yeah, definitely. And there we go, the draining phase does start. And we're gonna see the combustion and the cooldowns come out of the damage dealers here. Everything being used, even the PI from Zelia as well, to be able to just nuke down this boss while Nao is soaking the orbs, while also damaging the boss as well. Just standing in melee range, making sure he's soaking it all up. And there we go, Orifrion going down. Not even close to draining to full energy too. That was actually incredibly quick. Now they only have to gather up this last trash pack here to get up to that percentage that they need, to 85%. And then we're going to be seeing that angel pull.
I believe they need both usurpers, right? I'm pretty sure you need to get to 87%. And you can see it looks like they're actually pulling both of them here. Right now is off on the other side, pulling the second pack. So so everyone's going to be line of sighting to make sure they don't get hit by any hurl cast. They have the Ring of Frost pre-placed to get as much stacked up as possible. Unfortunately, they're not quite line of sighting everything, but they have the grip sigil from the DK to get everything stacked up. And once that grip sigil is down and everyone's in melee range, the hurls will stop going off. And that's the major danger of this pull. Completely just gone past here. Great execution from them to make sure that they're getting everything stacked up. That pull is a lot scarier than it looks. That was pretty much as good execution as you can get from Echo.
Yeah, this can be incredibly dangerous because it's also raging as well. Once all of those are raging, if they're not tanked and some of those hurl casts actually go off on players, then it can almost be a one-shot even. So incredibly dangerous. And then, of course, we also have explosive, which is something we haven't mentioned before. But when they do those huge pulls and you see all of those explosives spawn all over the place, that's the healer's job, right? Salia is just making sure he's killing all of those explosives before they go off, while also keeping everyone alive. So good job by the healers dealing with that affix here as well. And now we're going to have to keep an eye on Echo, see if they can pull this angel pull off. So they're going to be pulling all 3 of those angels. They have the Bloodlust available. They have all offensive cooldowns available as well. They're actually waiting for the true shot for Fragrance, it looks like, as it's just now came back up. And they're just waiting to get everything back because they know they're a little bit ahead. But if they wipe here, then that's going to cost them a lot of time. So they have the time to wait here to get all of their last restored up again as well, I guess, because it looks like now might be waiting for the cheat death a little, just to have it as safe as possible.
Yeah, that has to be what they're waiting on, right? Because we saw how terrible this was. Terribly this went for both teams earlier on. And this is a really interesting thing here. They're committing literally all of their cooldowns right off the bat, including the Carrion Spirit. But that means they're going to be stacking that debuff even more now. There's going to be no like relief phase for Xaylia here. He's just going to have to heal through these increasing stacks more and more. But look at that. They're all below 10 stacks as everything enters the raising phase. So the burst damage here isn't going to be that high. Echo is just blitzing this down with everything now dropping below 20%. And this is, I think, the cleanest we've seen any team do this week. This is crazy good from Echo. And we keep wondering, how is this team going to deal with this trash pack? It looks like Echo's just going to deal with it by burning it down literally faster than anybody else here. It's insane. And now it looks like he's not even going to proc the last resort here as everything drops below 5%. Everything goes down. They don't even need to use the touch of death. Man, that was insane. Echo are just on another level, man.
Yeah, now they're going to use the invisibility potion to just skip this Pride here. And one thing I saw as well was Fragrance immediately soothing off the enrage of Klotos, the one angel that casts the AoE stacking debuff on everyone. And then immediately on cooldown, also just soothing off the enrage of the other bosses as well. And then we saw a staggered use of Shadow Melt. Because if you're out of combat, you actually drop the stacks of those angels. So we saw Fragrance use the Feign Death first to completely just get rid of those stacks, and then using the Shadow Melt by Gingy Salia as well to just get rid of those stacks as soon as they were at a certain amount of stacks. So really well done, but very well, good use of utility here to just make sure this is quite a bit safer. And now we see Salia just throwing those achievement spears on top of the boss to make this boss go a little bit faster too. Oh, it was too late actually.
You didn't get in the bubble. Unfortunate.
It's actually kind of close, right? Because you have to immediately jump down after the AoE. Otherwise, you won't make it back into the bubble. And Sally was just being a little bit too late.
But you know what? The funny thing is, even though they used a death and a battle res there, it's probably still a time save because there's really no other way for your healer to do 4% of the boss's HP, like over the course of the entire fight. But yeah, it's pretty crazy fast. So again, we talked about this a little earlier when we saw Spires of Ascension earlier today, but there is currently a bug with this final boss in Spires of Ascension where I believe the way it's procced is if you use the intermission spears after the first intermission phase, right? The meta achievement spears, the boss will just keep spawning orbs outside of the phase. And then you can use that to skip the second
whenever you throw a spear, it spawns
damage.
one set of orbs. Yeah.
Oh, is that what it is? But yeah, the fact of the matter is it's a bug that the teams are aware of, right? Yeah, the fact of the matter is a bug. All of the teams are aware of it, and they're allowed to use it because it would be kind of weird for one team to get it and one team to not use it. So they all know about it. They're all allowed to use it. It just makes this boss go by much quicker. And you can see how much faster it is having access to all the spears here. The boss now dropping below 15% for Echo, as Perplex is still dealing with that final pride that they were unable to skip. And it's just going to be a clean first map win for Echo here with only one death.
He pulled the
pride.
pride.
He pulled the pride. It's not going to matter. The boss is dead. But
he said toxic.
Still very clean run, man.
No need. Just do it for a little bit of style points, you know?